Welcome to the D-Spot podcast. Dr. Dana McNeil is a licensed marriage and family therapist who specializes in working with couples using the Gottman method. Her evidence-based practice provides support for the wide range of relationship issues that modern couples face. By using her open, affirming, and outside-of-the-box thinking, Dr. Dana is able to approach her work with couples by bringing both insights and tools that reflect the realities of today's complicated relationships. Dr. Dana features guests on her podcast that include a unique array of celebrities, CEOs, influencers, and everyday folks who are all working on navigating new conversations about how society views what goes into a successful relationship. And now, here's your host, Dr. Dana McNeil.
Hello, this is Dr. Dana McNeil, and this is the D-Spot podcast, the podcast for all things about relationships. Today, I am excited to introduce you to one of my favorite clinicians, which all my clinicians are my favorite clinicians, Sam Guntner. He is one of the rising stars at my practice. And so one of the reasons I wanted to kind of do a series of visits with my clinicians is there's still just this stigma about couples therapy, that we're really good about going to individual therapy. And for some reason, we still feel guilt and shame or frustration or hesitation about going to couples. So I thought if you could meet some of the people that you'd be sitting across the couch from, that might make it a little bit easier and maybe give you some encouragement. So welcome, Sam. Hello.
Hi, Dana. Thank you for having me. It's lovely to be here.
So tell us, how did you become a therapist? What was your journey?
My journey to become a therapist, I think really started when I had a pretty stressful job in the past working as an art instructor for people with developmental disabilities. I originally went on the path of becoming an artist, lived in Berlin for a while to be an art assistant, really found I didn't want to have that be my career.
Wow, I didn't know this stuff about you. You actually lived in Berlin, like in Germany, Berlin?
I did. I do speak German.
Oh, we should be promoting you as somebody that can give therapy in German then, apparently.
Who knows? Maybe we'll see what happens. See some German listeners come up. So yeah, I started working in the human services world a little more often. I really found the part that was really about empowerment and supporting people who are going through difficult, aspects of life to kind of achieve these wonderful dreams was way more fulfilling than any art piece I ever made. I then also, it is a stressful job, and started realizing I started getting dizzy and started having headaches at work. I'm trying to figure out why. I realized then that I had pretty severe anxiety that I wasn't acknowledging.
So the fact that you were doing something that didn't speak to you, and that you just kind of kept compartmentalizing the anxiety and kind of tried to shake it off and say, it must be something else, or I need a good night's sleep, or maybe I need to go on a vacation. For you, how did you figure out it was anxiety?
A bunch of doctor's appointments, lots of blood tests. And they said, hey, do you ever get nervous? Have you ever gone and seen a therapist? Then I said, no, not really. I'd actually tried in Germany once, but didn't really pan out. And started seeing a therapist and really working on, just kind of the basics of emotional expression. And I feel like it opened up a whole new world for me.
Wow. So you can really identify, that's Windsor in the background, shaking his collar. You can really identify with couples then, because couples therapy is not just the we stuff, right? That there's the me stuff. And so if a couple comes in and one of them identifies with having anxiety, that's important for a therapist to be able to help them not only compartmentalize and, work on the difference between the things that I'm doing in the relationship, but how are we going to integrate understanding anxiety and how it impacts us?
Absolutely. And then in my own research from there of kind of like once I had gotten into grad school and learning about kind of men and intimate connection and specifically around friendship, a lot of things really often came back to how men have learned to kind of socialize in their romantic relationships and what their role in kind of maintaining those relationships is and how they can improve in that skill.
So does male anxiety look different than female anxiety?
I think so. I think for a lot of men, going back to that kind of somatization piece, what we call about like kind of the physical coming out, when the kind of emotional isn't being expressed. A lot of men are more kind of able to recognize that, oh, I get a headache when I'm in a difficult situation. I, for example, feel dizzy, or I start feeling like my stomach has tightened up and I'm suddenly really hungry, but I can't, feel like even if I keep eating on that, I never feel satisfied.
How does their partner know that so if this is an internal process, I mean, speaking, generally, not always, but how would a partner identify that somebody was having anxiety if everything was internal? How would they share that with their partner?
I mean, that's often kind of the difficult piece, is that a lot of times our partners don't know. And so oftentimes with men especially, they'll kind of tend to carry this a lot on their own and, maybe not seek help for it. So the hope is that eventually we can kind of, in therapy, like give men kind of tools, or really anybody who's having difficulty with emotional expression, tools that they can use to, one, make it feel kind of normal that you're feeling these feelings. Also, maybe normalize why you weren't expressing them before, and create some kind of concrete steps that can, I always like to say, build that muscle, because, it is a muscle. It is a skill that if you don't work on it, it is difficult. It is stressful. It is scary to express those feelings.
And so sometimes we're in a relationship with a partner that thinks that we just don't care, because if what I'm hearing you say is I'm internalizing that anxiety, I'm not wearing it on my sleeve, I might just look not present or busy or distracted. And one partner has decided, hey, something's going on, we should get some support around it. Does it often show up then that the couple comes in together, but one of the partners is like, hey, take care of this person over here, they got something going on?
Oh yeah, I get that plenty. Yeah, it comes up a lot. And it's often a dynamic that can be kind of visible right as soon as someone walks in the door and sits on the couch. You'll see kind of one person will be sort of very calm, very comfortable. Therapy is their realm. They probably do personal therapy as well. And then the other person maybe looks like anxious, like, oh my God, I'm going to be in trouble. Or they're kind of frustrated or standoffish, that whatever this therapist is going to tell me is wrong with me, I got everything in my pocket to push back.
So you think that couples come in assuming that you as the therapist is going to take a look at them and go, you're the one that's at fault, probably the guy, because he's not talking about his feelings.
Oh, absolutely. That is a dynamic that does come up a lot. And what I really try to do is kind of try to push that dynamic, put it to rest a little bit, and really kind of focus on bringing as much of my empathy into the room as possible. Because, there's one person who clearly has a need in the relationship that's not being met, and they're trying to like bring their partner along with them on this journey to, let's work on our relationship. And I want to make sure that they're feeling comfortable and that they're feeling like we can, have those needs addressed here. But I also want to make sure that the person who's, oftentimes the guy in heteronormative relationships, that they're feeling like this is a safe place and that I'm on their side too. I'm here for them to make sure that they get their needs.
So you're the Switzerland between the couple, right? And if they're Germany and France, you're making sure that you check in about what the needs of both of the partners for, that you don't choose a side. That's not your job as a therapist, but you create the relationship is your client.
Absolutely. The relationship is 100% my client. And I love that metaphor. I love cheese and chocolate as well. So that adds kind of a nice little depth of getting to know me a little bit. But
noted. I will make sure we have some in the break room for you, Sam.
Perfect. Thank you. This is all a ruse. But yeah, the idea is that I want to make sure both members of my couple feel safe to be as authentic with me as possible. I had a client recently kind of bring up the idea of, should I take notes or should I just kind of be my true self?
Aww.
And I thought that was really telling. And I said, I can't tell you what to do, but my gut, I say, always, you can't go wrong with listening to your true self, right? And, the dynamic absolutely 100% shifted. The conversation flowed more freely. And there was that beautiful kind of openness and the building of the relationship.
Beautiful. So give us the inside track. If I have a partner and I want my male partner to come to therapy and I'm imagining that he's hesitant, what's the best approach? How do I go to my partner? What do I say? How do I say it? Give us the inside track, Sam.
So I would recommend first the kind of piece about, one thing we often work on in the Gottman method is the focus on the I statement. What's the need I have that's not being met? And oftentimes it's a need to feel heard, feel seen, to feel like that there's back and forth in this conversation. And sometimes, if that person wants to come to their partner and says, hey, I'm feeling kind of, I feel like our relationship isn't feeling really strong right now. And I'd love to take the time to work on it. Would you be willing to come to couples therapy with me? I think coming from that place of compassion can be a lovely thing. A lot of my couples, we often start off with, the kind of phrases like, you always do this and you never do that. But, when we get to those kind of things that where we're coming from the I, a lot of my couples, a lot of my other members who maybe feel defensive in those moments are like, oh, I had no idea that this was so important to you. Yeah, of course I'll do this.
Because you're taking the pressure off them where they don't have to defend themselves. Just that starting of the not putting a you, which automatically makes my nervous system anxious because it doesn't usually come with, are the sunshine in my day, right? You comes with, there's going to be something pointed out about you that's not okay. And so that shift of I and my emotions, how I feel, and a behavior that I'm taking some responsibility for because we're a team is a nice way to soften it.
Absolutely. And I think this also kind of comes kind of neatly around to like why the Gottman method is really helpful for a lot of our couples is that, I hear from a lot of my couples, they've tried couples therapy and it was just a lot of their therapist was really good at validating their feelings. And it's a wonderful skill and it's a wonderful thing to have, but they wanted something that felt like, well, what do I do with my relationship? What do I do with these feelings now? And so what's nice about the Gottman method is it does have those kind of concrete tools. That's, great, especially when we're talking about men and emotional expression. One thing I've talked about when I've talked with experts in the field about this topic is what men often are looking for is something that they can hold on to that's almost kind of logical while they're kind of going on this journey into emotion.
So tell us about that, because I see a bunch of people like visually scratching their head. Tell me, Sam, how can I make something logical about something that's an emotion? What is that?
Exactly. So first thing I like to do is really focus on the kind of, your emotions are part of your natural bodily functioning, just as much as breathing or going to the bathroom. Your emotions are telling you that there's a need that's not being met in your life, And then from there, kind of just, it starts to make sense, like, okay, yeah, like these emotions that come up in my discussion that I don't get it. These don't seem like a big deal or the crux of the issue. Like, oh, well, I can see why this is actually important now.
I like that analogy that just like I don't question why I need to breathe or go to the bathroom, I just recognize that that's a part of who I am as a human being. And that's part of my functioning. And that keeps me well. And that's part of my stability and grounding as a person.
Exactly. And so from there, I often like to provide kind of basic tools. Like I think in the Gottman realm, what's called the gentle startup, where it's the kind of I feel statements, I often like to use those as like a great kind of place to practice of like just saying, what are you feeling? I often use like a little bit of, sometimes if it feels like something the client would be up to is a little bit of light journaling. I usually say, I want you to, do 3 times a day, write 3 words, I feel, and then just the word for what you're feeling. And from there, I usually also combine it with giving them, a list of feelings. It can feel a little bit overwhelming when you've been, you're trying to build the skill and you're like, well, what am I feeling? What are some feelings right now? To have a little kind of tool that you can kind of look to and kind of logically go from like, okay, I'm in the mad realm right now. I can go from there. That can be helpful. And then kind of, okay, maybe I'm more frustrated or more annoyed, maybe a little more irritated, just kind of building that specificity.
I love that, because I think that what often happens is for our male clients, there's so much pressure that they be in touch with their emotions because their partner is so quick at it, right? My partner might be able to name like 7 different emotions that they're feeling at the same time. And then they're turning to you and like, how do you feel? And they're like, right? So getting them to do that practice when it's not a pressure point, or it's not something that's going to make or break the relationship, or they don't feel like there's a right emotion to feel so that they don't get in trouble with their partner, is a really nice way of kind of helping them practice in their own space on their own time without the stakes being so high.
Absolutely. And I think normalizing it too, normalizing that this is difficult. This is hard. You're going to feel stressed and strained. And that's just part of the process. You don't have to be an expert right now, sitting in my office because you don't know. And I'm happy to go on that journey to help the I don't knows be a little smaller.
Great. Tell me, what's your pitch for couples who might be listening to this that are like, well, I don't know about couples therapy. I don't think we need it. Does it mean we're broken? Is there something wrong with us? Or should we just get a divorce? What do you want them to know about couples therapy?
My thing I want people to know about couples therapy is that if you come into couples therapy, no, you're not broken. No, there's nothing wrong with you at a base human level. What I always like to think of it as is that like there's something in your relationship you'd like to see improve. Oftentimes with a lot of my couples, like it comes to this kind of point of like where we view our relationship so negatively. And the truth is that there's so much more to your relationship. There's, all these wonderful moments of highs and lows and deep connection, and taking the time to kind of embrace all of that. And like we've kind of been talking about, getting your needs met can be really valuable. It can be a really wonderful, fun, joyous thing. I think we often kind of get bogged down in the ideas of therapy is where we go, where we talk about the bad things in our lives. But I always like to think about, therapy is also a place where we can really celebrate joy. As well.
And I hear lots of laughter come from your office. So you must be making some joy through the hard stuff. And I'm grateful that you give clients that little bit of levity in those really dramatic moments.
Absolutely. That's so important.
All right, Sam, you're awesome. I know you got clients to see. Any last words that you want to let anybody know who might be listening, or any thoughts about what it is that you want them to know about the therapy experience?
I would say just, stay open. Come into this, if you're coming to therapy with an open heart and an open mind. I think also, one thing I get here is that a lot of my clients feel like they need to come in and perform. And you don't have to. We're just going to talk. A lot of it's going to just be about stuff that you know really well yourself. So yeah, awesome. We're here for you.
Thank you. I am so grateful that you are part of the practice. You're doing amazing work with our clients. And I think that you are definitely a safe place for them to feel like they can get some new tools and they're not going to be judged, and that their life can be better. So thank you for what you do, Sam.
Thank you, Dana. I really appreciate what you saying that. And thank you for having me as part of the practice. It's been lovely.
All right, Sam. Talk to you later.
Bye.
This has been the D-Spot Podcast with Dr. Dana McNeil. To learn more about Dr. Dana's practice, simply visit us at www.danamcneil.com.